Regular Brattleboro Selectboard meeting for the month of July. Good evening. We have a huge agenda for you tonight, including the FY16 property tax rate. Town Finance Director John O'Connor will make a presentation on that for the board. Pay-as-you-throw will be updated by Assistant Town Manager Moss Kaler and Pay-as-you-throw Coordinator Moss Kaler. A potential agreement with Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation on an expansion for GS Precision will be discussed tonight, as well as town participation in the Wyndham Economic Development Program Advisory Committee. We'll hear from Brattleboro's Downtown Alliance this evening, the traffic safety engagement discussion with local motion, naming of a private drive. We'll find out where Magnolia Drive is this evening, awarding a bid for the purchase of a grader, dump truck, and police cruisers, further discussion for the screening committee for the National Endowment for the Arts Our Town grant, and finally committee appointments for the new year, which began back on July 1st. Stay with us. The Brattleboro Select Board is next here on WCEDP.
Good evening. It's July 7th, 2015. We're here for our first regularly scheduled Brattleboro Select Board meeting for the month of July. We convened at 5:15 and we did interviews for committee appointments and went into executive session to discuss contract matters, appointments, and real estate options. So we know that the meeting's been officially warned. Greetings to everybody who's watching on TV. Greetings to anybody and everybody who's in attendance already and who may be coming to the meeting tonight. I want to thank the ASL interpreters and members of the press, including our BC TV camera operators. The first matter on tonight's agenda is to approve the minutes from June 16. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes from June 16 as presented? So moved. We have a motion to approve the minutes from June 16 as presented. Is there any discussion from anybody on the board or anybody who's in attendance? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That carries 5-0. The next matter on the agenda is chair's remarks. I don't have a lot of remarks today. I want to begin by thanking the organizers of the 4th of July parade. It was a nice event. It was nice to see so many members of our community out on the streets for that celebration and then for the fireworks at Living Memorial Park. So we want to thank the organizers of those events. I want to make an announcement, which is that from 3 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock in the morning, day after tomorrow, Thursday, July 9, Route 30 will be closed to all traffic, both north and south of the I-91 overpass. The construction personnel are going to be installing some equipment that's going to begin the process of extending the highway northbound and southbound with the construction techniques that they've come and discussed with us. So Route 30 will be closed. Anybody who needs to travel north or south on Route 30 will have to take Upper Dummerston Road. I understand there'll be sheriff's personnel just diverting traffic up to Upper Dummerston Road from where Route 30 is closed. That will go from 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock in the morning on Thursday, July 9. I'll also just briefly note that tonight's agenda has got a series of matters that relate in many ways to our goals that were approved in May. They include some economic development related matters, and one of our goals was to implement pay-as-you-throw, and we'll get some good news about how that's been unfolding. I will note, however, that at the request of the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, the item under the Exit 1 Industrial Park is being pulled from tonight's agenda. The parties are in the middle of a long and complex process seeking to address all of the substantive details that would go with the potential expansion of the Exit 1 Industrial Park. More work needs to be done before that potential acceptance agreement where we would have taken over roads and sewer facilities can be presented to us, and we'll anticipate and look forward to the potential for this being put on a future select board meeting agenda. But for right now, we're not going to be addressing that tonight. The next item on the agenda is the town manager's comments. Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have comments this evening, and I'll begin. I want to cover a couple of other things with updates about particular projects that are ongoing this summer. But I wanted to begin by giving a quick status report on the goals that you adopted, our annual goals for this year, adopted back on May 5th. There's been a couple of adjustments that we've made there and good progress made on other elements of that. So I just wanted to quickly advise you that the financial planning work, both the comprehensive plan, comprehensive review of town operations and the preparation of a long-term financial plan, each will run at least 2 weeks and probably a month behind. As I had advised the board and I wanted to advise the public, we are in a process. There's work I need to do on what I've received from the department heads who've done excellent work in preparing their parts of this. And so we think that it's important that, more important that this be done well than that it be done quickly. And there have been other priorities that have crowded out that particular piece of work in the last few weeks. So, we will put that back on track, and my expectation is that by the end of August, I'll be ready to present to you on the comprehensive review of town operations, and by the end of October, we'll have a long-term financial plan. Still in the process, in the time frame when we'll be preparing next year's budget, but not prior to the initial preparation of that budget as I had hoped. So we'll keep you posted as that evolves. And the one other that's been adjusted that you're well aware of also from the evolution of it here in the special meetings that we've had is that the adoption of the land use regulations now looks like it'll occur in early October. We had established a goal of a time frame for that of adopting by the end of August. But some additional level of review prior to going into the public, the formal public hearing process was required. And so now as we look out at the steps required for Planning Commission review and approval and Select Board review and approval, it looks as though that'll be early October. Everything else, however, including the pay-as-you-throw, the work of the Regional Hub Committee and the development of a hub strategy, the preparations for having a broader review of the town's role in economic development, the other related work with the Windham County Economic Development Program and investment of the energy money, as well as other financial related work, and the police and fire project, which there's a tremendous amount of work going on behind the scenes there. We'll be ready for some public discussion of that shortly. All of those things are on the path, or approximately the path that we would have expected based on the adoption of these goals back on May 5th. So that's where we stand related to the annual goals. Related to a few more specific projects that are underway, wanted to advise that the Green Street retaining wall is moving ahead well now that we've received that $300,000 state grant. And we expect to publish the invitation to bid next week, and then receive those bids early in August and be back to you at the August 18th Select Board meeting for a bid award, and we'll move forward. If we are able to stay on that schedule, and we expect we will be able to do that, then the construction of the wall should be completed before winter. Also, a project that will begin very soon and need to be completed before winter is the sidewalk project on the east side of Main Street. You've taken all the actions you need to take for that to move forward. The contractual work is being completed. The preparations for the contractor to begin their work are happening. We had a meeting this morning with merchants. Steve Barrett and Hannah O'Connell and I met with a group of merchants to describe the project and seek assistance from them in making sure that we get the word out to everybody on Main Street that's going to be affected. We'll also soon be putting out information to the general public so that everyone knows the details of when the work will begin and approximately the sequence of work and how we expect that to be completed. That should be done. It's a 60-day project. We expect it to begin in early August and be completed by early October. Wanted you to know, and the public also to know, that in addressing the urgent need for bringing the public safety systems of this building up to code, we have received our fire alarm permit now and expect to shortly begin the work of installing the new fire alarm system here at the Municipal Center. And finally, some very good news that we received from the National Endowment for the Arts, which is the approval of our request for a one-year extension of the Our Town grant. Yay. So our deadline now for completing that is next July 31st of 2016. Plenty of time for us to implement the plan that you have recently approved for identifying the project or projects that will be the culmination of this effort, identifying that by the time we're into mid-fall of this year, and then implementing those projects either right away, weather permitting, or in the spring if they are projects or art pieces that need warm weather to be implemented. That's my exhaustive report for this evening.
I spoke much more than usually do in comments. Well, I want to start by saying that's really great news about the a one-year extension on the NEA grant. I see a series of people here who participated in that work over the course of the last months, and I want to thank each and every one of you for your assistance on that. We are going to be coming back to the NEA grant later in the agenda when we talk about the screening committee, but that's really good news. I also very briefly just want to although it's not a noticed agenda item, so we couldn't do any binding business tonight. Peter mentioned that we're going out to bid on the contract for the Green Street retaining wall based upon the plan that had been approved by the board, I think 4 or 6 weeks ago, before we got the urgent needs CDBG grant. And I know that there had been some concern expressed by some board members about the type of wall we were planning to build. And because we're going out to bid next week, I just want to take a little bit of time to make opportunity to speak about that, so that if this is something that we need to look back at, based upon views that people have, that we can do that promptly, so that we're not readdressing the topic when there's already a bid package out. So this would be a good time, John.
Yeah, and David, I'm assuming I'll speak for you also on this. Sure. David Scholes and I had expressed some concern about the type of wall to be built, and but because of the urgent need of this and the way the grant has been written and how it's been passed on to us, Peter explained that it is an urgent need and it has to be done expeditiously. So, we were hoping that we could do the slate wall and put it back into the natural state that it was, but just because of the way they dole out money, and we really have to get this done quickly before winter comes in. So Peter explained to us that we have to do it this way, and because that's the way the contract was written. And David, if there's anything.
Yeah, and when we first talked, you actually weren't at the meeting when we first talked about it. You were away.
Right.
And we questioned the Public Works Department pretty extensively about could we do stone and how many hundreds of years and all of those kinds of things. And I think one of the reasons that we voted to do it the way we did is because it's really expensive.
Yes.
And I would love to have put out joint bids to see if somebody could come up with a less expensive one, but it's not going to happen. So
Okay.
let's just get it done.
All right, so we'll be moving forward with the RFP. It doesn't sound like that's going to be revisited, like many other things here in town. What's that, Jim?
You may have set yourself up for that one.
So,
Broken ground.
the next item on the agenda is Select Board comments, committee reports. Anybody on Select Board have any other comments? Donna?
Thank you, David. The Traffic Safety Committee met on the morning of June 23rd, and there's actually an agenda item that we'll take up later in today's meeting. But we had a conversation about the degree to which drivers are aware of pedestrians, and it feels like over the years, the work that the Traffic Safety Committee has been doing has had a positive impact on the well-established behaviors of drivers simply noticing pedestrians. So the town continues to take a look at that, to work closely with Local Motion. And Local Motion talked about their desire to really get the reflective bands out to increase their pitch to corporations, to SIT, to the hospital, to have the reflective bands available for people who are walking and biking. So I just want the town to know that there is some fabulous work that has been happening on the Traffic Safety Committee, and the town continues to really do its due diligence and to work closely with partners to make sure that the pedestrians and bikers in our community are as safe as they possibly can.
Thank you. Dave?
Mine is not exactly on town business. This is our first actual meeting since the murders in the church in South Carolina. And I don't really know what to say or anything can be said that is helpful, but it struck me that the murderer, a lot of people have written that the murderer acted alone and that that's a good thing, he wasn't part of some terrorist organization. But the beliefs that motivated him are not, he's not alone in those beliefs. There are a lot of other people that share those beliefs, and a similar one was just voiced by Donald Trump last week. And I just want to encourage everybody that in their daily lives to take every opportunity they have to combat those beliefs, and just don't let comments go by, don't let absurd statements go by, react to them, and let's just finish the job of getting rid of these racist and beliefs.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. I don't know how to follow up on that, but mine was, mine's back to the town stuff. And it has to do with the police fire. I just want the committee to know that I think we want to get back together soon, and but we'll be talking about that later. So I just want to know that things are moving ahead, and that the committee should get back together soon, and we'll see if we can get this thing going. Kate?
Don't have to.
Well, no, because we've gone on so long, I won't.
Okay. Can if you
I
want.
won't keep going.
All right.
4th of July O'Connor's.
I know.
So the next item on the agenda, lacking some comment from Ms. O'Connor, is public participation. If there's anybody who wants to speak to an item that is not on the agenda, this would be a good time. Ms. Baboulas.
Thank you. Since I'm here,
Next week, starting the 16th, from the 16th to the 19th, is the Southern Vermont Dance Festival. It takes place mostly in downtown Brattleboro, except for one show, which happens in Keene at the Colonial Theater on Saturday night. We have events at the Latches. We have events all over the place. There are a lot of public events free and open to the public, happening at Plenty Park and the River Garden all day long, on all 4 days. Multiple shows. There's something for anyone, whether you just enjoy to watch a dance performance or you actually want to take a class. You can take up one class, you can do a whole full day of festival activities, you can do all 4 days, and there's any number of sort of price points for people who are interested in doing that. So I just want to invite everybody to come down. And the entire festival is designed around bringing business to downtown. We don't use any outside vendors. There's 45 minutes between each activity, so there's plenty of time for people to mill around the businesses downtown. So it's a nice blending of economic development and arts, and hope to see more of these kind of events happening in Brattleboro.
So you think they can teach me to dance?
Anyone can dance.
Not gonna happen.
Dance is for everybody.
No natural rhythm.
Anybody else for public participation? Okay then. The next item on the agenda, I also want to thank all former select board members
Who are here tonight.
who are here tonight. I see
Stand
a
up
lot
and
of
be
you,
recognized.
you know, I see a lot of you. So I want to thank all of you for your continuing interest and participation in our town government.
Please, run
You
again.
know,
Hope it's not too traumatic to be back.
So, the first item on our new business agenda is setting the FY16 tax rate. And should I ask John to talk with us about the tax rate, please?
Thank you, David. Good evening, everyone. So we're here to set the tax rate tonight for fiscal 16. And the municipal tax rate, including the local agreement rate, is recommended to be set at $1.1607. And that's a reduction of just under a half a cent per $100 of evaluation. So the municipal tax rate is actually going to go down next year. The DID rate, we're proposing a rate of 13.56 cents, and that's a decrease of a quarter of 1 cent per $100 of valuation. So again, the DID rate is going down a little. Both rates are going down because the grand list in both cases increased slightly. Not a big increase, but there was an increase. So these rates will raise basically the same amount of money that we raised last year with the rates we had last year. We've got the rates from the state for the homestead rate. That's $1.6769. And for the non-residential rate, that's $1.5048. The non-residential education rate, surprisingly, is actually going down by 0.2 cents. And the homestead rate is going up by 2.68 cents. So the impact on a homeowner in Brattleboro with a homestead with a $100,000 home would be $22 a year. The non-residential rate would be a decrease of $7 on a $100,000 property. So I think overall that's pretty good news. And we do have the Tri-Park special assessment rate also to set tonight, and that's for the utility improvements that were done there. And that rate we're proposing to be set at $6.7206 per $100 of valuation.
Thank you, John. I have a question. Can you speak to what is the local agreement component of the municipal tax rate?
The local agreement consists of veterans exemptions that the town has authorized over $10,000. And also there are tax stabilization agreements that are in there that the state doesn't recognize for state taxing purposes. So the town has to raise the money and turn that money over to the state.
So that's $25,864 and change in tax money that we have to raise because of exemptions that we grant through town meeting.
Yes.
And then I know it's very complicated calculation, but can you give us the layperson's explanation why the homestead rate is so much higher than the non-residential rate?
It has to do with the per pupil spending rate, but beyond that, I'm not an expert on how the state comes up with these rates. It's a very complicated formula. And
Russell
I think
understands it, right?
Frank Rucker does.
All right. It might be nice at some point for us to understand that, because as we embark on our economic hub-related discussions, fixing X 60 and 68 so that the homesteaders are not the only people who are supporting education spending, and so that we're not supporting it disproportionately with other property owners in town. Might be a good thing to look at. Please.
So move up to Montpelier, will you?
Is there any further inquiry or comment from anybody on the board about setting the tax rates? I will note that throughout the discussion of tax rates for FY16, Select Board was clear that there has been additional costs that are being borne by homeowners who are now paying for pay-as-you-throw bags. And so there is an effective tax increase reflected as a result of this budget. We've said it probably a dozen times or more every time we've talked about the budget. So while we were able to reduce the tax rate, municipal tax rate, by half a penny almost, people are going to be incurring additional expenses based upon having to pay for pay-as-you-throw bags. And what that means is that cost of municipal services went up a little bit, like essentially a 2 cent increase maybe, I would say on average.
Depends on how much you recycle.
That's right.
Depends how much you recycle and you compost.
That's right.
Is there any other discussion about setting the tax rate? No, we're ready for motion, please.
Sure.
I move that we approve a municipal tax rate of $1, how do you want me to do it? $1.1607 per $100 of assessed value for general fund operations, an additional 0.1356 cents per $100 of assessed valuation for the downtown improvement district, an additional $6.7206 cents per $100 of assessed value for the Tribe Park special assessment, and to ratify the state mandated education rates at $1.6769 per $100 of assessed valuation for homestead properties, and $1.5048 cents per $100 of assessed valuation for non-residential properties.
We have a motion to set the tax rate as stated. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 4-0. Mr. Scholl's out of the room. The next item on the agenda is pay-as-you-throw update.
Thanks, Jen.
Mr. Kaler, Mr. Moreland, looks like you're going to take the table. Greetings.
Good evening. Good evening, everybody.
So
Patrick Moreland.
Oh yeah, please.
Moss Kaler.
So we've been doing pay-as-you-throw since a week Monday. Performance on the very first day was not as good as we had hoped, but there's been significant improvement, we understand, over the last week. Doesn't appear that there's garbage sitting around on the streets to any degree, and I haven't seen any in the woods as I've been going around. So we're hoping to hear an update from the two of you about where we stand.
Excellent. We would like to provide just a brief update on that exact set of conditions. I want to ask Moss to talk a little bit about curbside participation rates, talk a little bit about the experience from the retail environment, and then finally, I'll talk a little bit about enforcement efforts and the need for them, at least thus far. I guess first, though, I'd like to say that the transition from the model of paying for the collection and disposal of solid waste to the one we're doing today of pay-as-you-throw is a complicated and difficult transition for any community. And it impacts each and every household that participates in the town's curbside collection program. It is a difficult and challenging transition for the retailers who are now dealing with a new product and recognizing, when and how and where they should stock that product. And I would say after a week and 2 days, that Brattleboro is doing a really good job in making this transition. And I think a lot of that has to do with the very aggressive public education campaign that went on the last several months. And I want to thank Moss and the board also for recommending a second mailing. I think that was critically important. We think that the information is out in the community, and I think there's good data here to suggest that is in fact the case, and things are working. So I'm going to ask Moss to talk a little bit about curbside participation, and take it away.
All right. Thank you, Patrick. There was an article in the Reformer that was written after our first 2 days of collection, and I rode the truck last Monday and Tuesday. This Monday and Tuesday, Bob Spencer rode the truck last Wednesday, and the drivers kept data last also Wednesday and Thursday. So we have data from each day, and I will agree with David's comments that after Monday and Tuesday, we had more non-pay-as-you-throw bags at the curb than I would have guessed. And of course, riding the truck, you don't often see the residents because generally they're off at work. But not all of them. They have different work schedules. Some may be retired and whatnot. So I did have an opportunity on Monday and Tuesday to talk to several different residents about pay-as-you-throw, and several of those residents had put non-pay-as-you-throw bags at the curb. And almost without exception, they said, "I thought pay-as-you-throw started on July 1st." And the town, in our mailings and all our meetings, and all our media contact has been very consistent that the start date was Monday, June 29th. But where the confusion lay was that the state law, Act 148, starts July 1st, and there were numerous articles in the paper and stories in the media about the state law, July 1st, and certain towns like Townsend or maybe Putney or whatnot also having some new rules going into effect July 1st. So a lot of people were confused by that, thought that it started on July 1st. If July 1st had fallen on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, there wouldn't have been a problem, but it fell in the middle of our collection week, which is Monday through Thursday, hence the confusion. And then when we got our numbers of violations of non-pay-as-you-throw bags at the curb on Wednesday and Thursday, which was July 1st and 2nd, the number dropped dramatically. Many fewer non-pay-as-you-throw bags at the curb. And now I've been out this Monday and Tuesday, and the number has dropped dramatically again. So while I can't claim that every single person in Brattleboro knows that pay-as-you-throw is in effect right now, I would say it's pretty close to every single person. It would be very difficult after this past week to not know when you see all the purple and yellow bags at the curb.
Can you tell us the exact numbers for last week and this week?
Yes, we do. Last Monday compared to this Monday, we had and this isn't necessarily the number of bags that were wrong, but maybe if there were 3 or 4 non-pay-as-you-throw bags out, we left a sticker behind with educational information. And I do want to say that this first week wasn't so much violations as an educational effort. If someone put out a non-pay-as-you-throw bag, we left a sticker along with educational information indicating that pay-as-you-throw is now the way trash is handled in Brattleboro. This is where you could buy the bags. Information very similar to the last postcard that went out a couple weeks ago. And last Monday, a week ago, was 120 violations, and yesterday was 14. So it went from 120 to 14. Tuesday, June 30th, was 178. This was our highest number of violations, and today there were 31. So it went from 178 to 31. Last Wednesday was 91, and last Thursday was 27. So I'm expecting that we'll find tomorrow and Thursday, less than 20, maybe even as few as 10 or so. A lot of people do not have trash out, and that's a good thing because they're curbside composting and they don't need to put trash out every week. They can collect because the odor, the smelly parts of their garbage, their food scraps, they are putting at the curb every week. What it leaves in their trash is mainly film plastic, which has little or no odor, and so they can hang on to that. I know we haven't yet put any trash out, and I suppose that's true of most of the select board as well. So that's a heartening thing to see. A lot of people are asking about the curbside compost carts. This is an opportunity to say we are out of those carts at this time, but we have ordered more, and we expect them at the end of the month. And Callista and Wyndham Solid Waste and myself, we're all keeping a list of anyone who contacts us and saying, I want to get a curbside compost cart. We're taking their name and contact information, and when those carts come in, we'll let them know by phone call or email.
Moss, one quick thing
Yeah,
on that
sure.
while you're talking about composting. We make it really, really clear again that composting is, we're encouraging it, but it is not mandatory.
Exactly. It isn't mandatory. It is voluntary.
Right.
In the year 2020, 5 years from now, it'll be mandatory, but not now. By my best estimation, we currently have about 35% of all our residents are curbside composters. And if we sell out all the carts we have ordered, and it's looking like there's great interest in those, we would be up over 40%. And I think that's pretty impressive for a voluntary program.
But we should keep pointing out that composting and recycling is the best way to reduce the volume of trash that's being paid for disposal. So if we could get to 100% recycling and composting rate, we'd be very happy not to be earning the money by selling so many bags.
And then we'll figure that out.
We will.
We'll figure that
Yep.
out.
Yeah, is it going to be possible to compare the tonnage that's, like after 3 months or 6 months, the tonnage that's been since this program went into effect compared to this?
Yes,
similar periods?
absolutely,
Yeah.
and we're keeping track of a lot of data, and I will say that it's much too early at this point. The first week, as we mentioned, a lot of people were confused to June 29th versus July 1st. Some people maybe wanted to test the system and see, well, if I don't put out a pay-as-you-throw bag, are they going to take it anyway, which we did not. And consequently, that first week, the weights were very, very low. And today, the weight was very, very high, because we collected basically a week and a half's worth of trash. And I would say to look at tonnages next week on would be a lot more telling than this week and the
yeah.
first week. Yeah. But we'll
But
definitely.
it is, we have those, I mean, we pay by the ton, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yep.
it shouldn't be hard to figure it out.
Oh, yeah, we have all the data.
And the other
Yep.
thing is, I just want to make another pitch for, put your minds toward trying to come up with some sort of a reusable trash container so that we're not putting things in the bags that preserve them in the landfill, but like, maybe a can that you put a sticker on the top of the last piece of garbage,
Yeah.
it gets dumped, or some other way to get the trash out that doesn't involve the plastic bags.
We did look at various models prior to coming up with the plan that was recommended to the board. And I think the board and the pay-as-you-throw committee will continue to ask for feedback from you and the entire community about what they feel might be the shortcomings of this current system and where we might be able to see improvements. But that would be one thing to look at. All these different models have pluses and minuses.
Yeah. I can't figure out how to do it, that's why I asked you.
Yeah. We'll put our heads together.
So now, as to retailers, there was some concern about some retailers not having bags available. Do we know how many bags have been sold?
Yes. Currently, as of July 1st, there were purchased cases, and in every case, there's 400 bags, whether it's large or small. A case of small is 400 bags, a case of large is 400 bags. Our different stores in town had ordered 80 large cases and 76 small cases. And Patrick did the math and figured that this is about 20% of our estimated number of sales for an entire fiscal year. So I think at this point, people should not see outages at their local stores. The bags are expensive. The stores are paying the retail value. So a box of these bags for the store owner is expensive. And so one can well imagine they don't want a whole pallet full of these bags and the money tied up in them in the back of their storeroom. So they want to keep just a case or two on hand. So there will be occasional times when they run out of bags. Waste Zero is very good at processing their orders and getting them a new order quickly in the span of 2 or 3 days. We have the same 7 stores. I emailed them last Friday asking them how things were going, and I heard back from 5 of the stores, and they all had positive things to say. They all pretty much said, you know, we ran out now and then, but we got restocked quickly. Things are going pretty smoothly. I haven't heard of any big problems. I think it is frustrating when a customer goes in to buy a bag and that store happens to be out at that time. But I think we're beyond that point now. We got to keep in mind this first 2 weeks we had 4,800 families all buying bags in a 2-week span, and now they probably have enough bags that might last them a month or more. And so now the demand for the bags will be much more even. It won't be such a strong demand, and then it'll steady out, and the stores can probably start to learn how many they're going to need from week to week, from month to month, and it'll be easier for the stores.
One of the things that I think people encountered was that bags were being sold from behind the counter rather than out in inventory. And I certainly understand that because stores are paying full freight and really just providing a service for the town, and so they don't want to have problems with shrinkage with people stealing the bags. Do we expect that's going to continue, that they'll be selling bags from behind the counter rather than having them open on the shelves?
Yeah, out of the seven stores, only 2 actually put them out in their shelves. All the others sold them at the checkout counters. Hannaford and Price Chopper and sold them at each cash register. So it's very easy right there when you're checking out and have your groceries scanned. You could ask for a roll of bags. Now, I suppose if you went into that store for just a roll of bags, that could be a bit of a hassle. But even if you've got it back in the aisle, you'd still have to go through the checkout. I think each store finds out what system works best for them for inventory control, but I do believe it'll probably be more the norm that the bags will be at one of the checkout counters and not on the shelves.
Well, thanks for that update. That's great. Sounds like there's some more information, Patrick, you've got about enforcement.
Yeah, just a couple of things I wanted to follow up on. Particularly last week when there were a significant number of households that received the message, we have not picked up your garbage and here's why. There was some concern that we would find garbage in the streets. And we were actually quite surprised. We did some touring about 24 and 48 hours after Monday. We went around that route to sort of examine, and we're very pleased to see that there really wasn't anybody who didn't take their trash back to the house. So while we were sort of gearing up for, fanning out and distributing letters to folks who were violating our ordinance by leaving their rejected rubbish at the curbside, it just didn't materialize. People did the responsible thing, and they brought it back to the house, and you can see from the rates of participation, they went and got themselves a page throw bag and put it out the following week. So we were very, very happy to see that. Concerns over illegal dumping thus far have not materialized either. We actually had our first complaint today about that issue. We responded to it, I believe, quickly, and came to recognize it just frankly wasn't illegal dumping. It was something altogether different. So we haven't seen any illegal dumping thus far, and we'll continue to keep our eyes open and ears open, and the phones are open. So we will respond appropriately as needed.
And the town does want to take enforcement action to the extent that there's illegal dumping. So if anybody's aware of household trash being dumped where it shouldn't be, and I'm not going to give a list of places you could, but please let the town know, because we need to know in order to deal with that.
No, kudos to the town. It's definitely a switch in how we do things, and I personally didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, so it's good to see that it's materializing that way, and that people have stepped up to the plate. There are going to be some concerns about this for a while, but I think we need to give it about 6-8 months and really figure out where we're at. But thank you, town.
Peter?
I actually do want to identify a location that we had been concerned people would drop off inappropriately, because it demonstrates some really good collaboration that went on intergovernmentally to protect against that. So up at the Fairground Road recycling drop-off area, we really were very concerned that that would be a likely location where there would be some abuse. And the town, together with the Wyndham County Solid Waste and others, coordinated the installation of a video camera there. And our partners in the media got the word out that indeed there's a video camera there and it's being monitored, and anybody who's got any idea about doing something other than complying with this new set of rules certainly ought to not look to that location to deviate, and we haven't seen any kind of a problem there.
I'm going to have to get a David Kurtenstein mask made up.
One of me is plenty. More than enough.
I like that idea, we can work on that.
Any other questions or comments from anybody on the board? Anybody who's in attendance? Excellent.
Arts Commission should go to that.
All right then. Well, thanks very much for your update. Thanks very much for your work helping us to do this transition. That's really good news.
Yep, you're welcome.
So the next item on the agenda is the town's participation in the Wyndham County Economic Development Partners Advisory Council. And I will quickly introduce this topic and then turn it over to Mr. Elwell. One of the items on the goals we approved was to address and to make some determination about what role the town should play in economic development. It's been an open subject for a long time. Different people have different views about that topic. There's been work that's unfolded about development of a regional economic development strategy, but we also have recognized that the town has its own individual interests in ensuring that it can fund the services that we need to provide as the regional economic hub. Study is going on of regional economic hub related issues, and there's a working group that's looking at those questions. While that's been going on, And while we prepare to begin the select board discussion about the role we should play in economic development in the region and locally to incentivize economic development in the town itself, we've also been taking steps to make sure that we're engaging in those economic development efforts. And one of the ways that we've done that is to advocate for and to earn ourselves a seat at the table with respect to the Windham County Economic Development money that Entergy has been giving to the state pursuant to the agreement to give us $2 million a year for Windham County economic development progress over a course of 5 years. And so we haven't previously been able to speak about this publicly because it was part of negotiations that were ongoing with regional economic development partners and with the state as to how the Vermont Yankee economic development funds would be handled and administered. But I'm very pleased to be able to announce and to explain that we are now, as a town, represented on the Windham County Economic Development Partners Advisory Committee. And I'm going to ask Peter to give a little bit more information about that. About the town's role in that. There was an organizational meeting today to help address specifically what the process is going to be like going forward. And then there is going to be an action item that we're going to be acting on as well. So, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did have our first meeting there today, and it went very well. All of the different levels of government that Chairman Gartenstein described were present, so there were state officials in the room, regional economic development, and other officials in the room, as well as 3 of us representing local governments. Had a really good conversation. It will be for the state to describe the outcome of that meeting from the point of view of announcing the kickoff of the program and the sequence of events that's going to be occurring in terms of some opportunities for potential proposers to learn more about how to bring forward a good quality proposal for loan or grant funds, but that's going to be forthcoming here shortly. The process will begin later this summer, and the town will have a seat at the table, be participating in this advisory committee work as it goes along through the process of doing some initial review of the letters of interest to screen for those applicants that are complying with the program and submitting something that is actually fundable through the program, and then later also participating in the additional review necessary to select those who would be recommended to the state for funding through the program. So it's going to be a very collaborative, very participatory process involving regional officials and local officials with the state. Final decisions to be made and implemented through state government. I think the system that's been set up is going to be effective at improving the distribution of these funds. And I was impressed today by the degree to which a group of us who have had these kinds of conversations, but not actually been a team implementing a program like this, became very quickly, in the space of a couple of hours, a team that was working towards implementation of a program. So a lot of good sharing of ideas, a lot of good identification of how we can work together going forward. We've set the next meeting for a couple of weeks from now and are ready to go forth and do this work together.
Can you tell us who is participating in what's known as Windham County Economic Development Partners?
Sure. So the initial proposal of having this advisory committee function and some structured local participation with the state came from the Windham Regional Commission and the Brattleboro Development Credit Corporation, BDCC. They did confer with the town as far back as in January about that. We've had a lot of conversation through the spring about what the structure of that might look like. And also they communicated with other municipalities. A decision was made through the course of those communications that it'd be appropriate for the municipalities that have a designated downtown organization to be involved in the distribution of the funds, that being indicative of those that have actually a concentration of businesses in the community, in economic, basically the centers of economic activity for our area. So that is Brattleboro, Rockingham, and Wilmington that have been invited to the table. And the fourth municipality that will be participating is Vernon, which doesn't have a designated downtown, but is the focus of the departure of EY. So.
And the state agencies that are participating?
So the main agency is the Agency of Community and Commerce and Community Development that is leading this entire effort. And then I'm going to look to Patrick to help me with the name of the small business organization that provides assistance and advice to small business.
The SBDC?
Yes.
Small Business Development Center?
Thank you very much.
You got it.
So they are the participants from state government in this effort.
And one of the things that's going to be left to announcement by the state is whatever funding will be available to support these ongoing efforts to improve the types of applications that are being submitted for the Vermont Yankee funds. And more about the structure for applications also going to be coming from the state. But we do have the formal Windham County Economic Development Partners Advisory Committee structure now in place, and we're actually going to be looking for a motion to appoint our representative on behalf of the town to represent the town. But Peter, why don't you?
Yeah, just one quick thing. I'm sorry. One additional, so that our list is complete. The SEDS board, the Comprehensive
Economic Development.
Economic Development Strategy.
Southeastern Vermont Economic Development Strategy.
Right, but the SEVEDS board that created the SEDS, they are also represented independently. So there's a lot of symbiotic relationship there between BDCC staff and functioning and the operation of the SEVEDS, but they are distinct from one another and they have two separate boards, and so that is another regional entity that is participating in this, and they had representation at the table today.
The future meetings are public? Those public meetings?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Today was not a publicly warned meeting. Again, we're operating under a state-led initiative with local participation. I'm not sure exactly how open meetings law applies to that. We'll have to look into that.
So,
We will ask that question.
Yeah, please, because I'm interested in watching. I'd love to, but.
It's a good question. Today was not a public meeting. I don't know whether future meetings will be public
It'd be
meetings.
nice to be able to attend sometimes.
John?
so at the end of the day, when everything is sugared off and something goes up to the state,
Yes.
is there a committee up in the state that will take this under advisement, or is it totally going to the governor? Or
Some of the programs are going to actually, some of the funds will be distributed through existing state programs. So the normal structures of state government will apply to how those pieces are handled. And then there are some of these funds where the final decision will rest personally with the governor.
Kate had a question.
I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
In all respects, the final decisions will rest with the state, and the
Right.
advisory committee will be exactly that. They'll be providing this local, regional input into the process.
Well, I just want to say, I think it was a year ago this all started, and I was crazed over this because I thought the state was handling it wrong, and then the governor came down and only gave out 800,000 of the 2 million, which at that point I thought was the right decision. So watching this evolve, this is a really, really good development. And I've got to say that the governor has been advocating, on Brattleboro's behalf during this whole thing. Pat Moulton at the Agency of Commerce has been very responsive to Brattleboro. So I feel, sometimes I think as a town, we have to yell a little louder than anybody else to get what we want. But we've had advocates, literally all the way to the top that have understood how important this money is to Windham County. Also, they understand the role that Brattleboro plays in the economic development, arena, so to speak, in Windham County. So, and I think it's a credit also to the different organizations, as Peter said, that are around the table, that we haven't necessarily been, we say we all work together, but there really hasn't been a, well, yeah, but it hasn't it was like the rubber has to hit the road, like this is too good of an opportunity for all of us. If we don't do it together, we're
fighting it.
Right. So I think we've come together. The state, between Pat Mold and the governor helped us get together. They've approved everything, every step of the way. So I sort of feel like this is a local partnership as well as a state partnership, and there's honestly understanding all the way up to the top of the food chain. So I think it's really exciting. That's not to say that everyone's going to be happy if they don't get their money. The $2 million is still, but I think there's a structure that we've all worked hard to get to.
Right.
But everybody's had the single focus of making it better.
All those things are true, and it was truly exciting today to see the degree of collaboration. So it wasn't everybody saying the same thing or thinking the same thing. There was good, candid exchange of ideas. But everybody was also listening well, and so it was really neat to see these different levels of government and different local and regional players come together and truly be collaborating towards better outcomes for everything around this opportunity that our region has to invest these funds wisely. So I think we're off to a good start.
I want to specifically thank Kate, who's been saying for more than a year that we need a seat at the table. And we've worked to get that seat, and hopefully this will serve as a model by which the state's and the regions and the town's interests in economic development can all be represented and advocated for in an organized, collaborative manner. And we can hope to be working together to achieve our shared goals and our individual goals at the same time. So I want to thank everybody for their really good work in that process. Is there anything from anybody who's in attendance to speak about the Windham County Economic Development Partners Advisory Committee? So I move to appoint Peter Elwell to represent the town of Brattleboro on the Windham County Economic Development Partners Advisory Committee. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed or abstaining? That carries 5-0. Congratulations.
Those are the arguments.
The next item on the agenda is a report from the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance. I see some representatives here. If you want to come up to the table.
Another select board.
Yeah, Jen, please, you go to the table too.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michelle Simpson-Siegel, the interim president of the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance, and I'd like to introduce Jen Austin, who is the new downtown coordinator. That is the paid part-time position of the organization. And we have both been in these roles for just a few months, and we have the distinct pleasure of giving you our update on our work plan, which you all have a copy of. So I suppose I'm sort of reading this for the benefit of the television viewing audience. Yes? So there was a lot of work accomplished on the design committee. Specifically, 63 barrels of flowers were planted in downtown, along with 9 flower boxes added to Plaza Park and additional hanging baskets on Gilbert Bridge. And then, as you notice, the pansies got swapped out for some more heat-loving flowers. In addition to flowers, there's also been cleaning and painting done at Plenty Park, the parking meter posts, the handrail in front of the library, and bicycle racks all throughout downtown. Similarly, the holiday lighting, which is a tradition sponsored by the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance, was again a success. Also, the work of the design committee is the facade program, which gives small grants to downtown businesses to improve their storefronts. Let's see, and there's a list of businesses and storefronts that benefited directly from these improvements with the help of this year's funding. Those include Vermont Artisans, Hermit Thrush Brewery, Silver Moon, Burroughs, Maple Leaf Music, Strolling of the Heifers, and Everyone's Books. And Dick DeGray is the chair of the design committee, and he'd like to thank a few folks.
Thank you, Michelle. And the last time we were before you, actually, Matt Livingston was our president, and as you can see, we've had a change in the past 7 months. But I wanted to thank some people who are very important to the design committee and contribute greatly to the beautification of our downtown. And I'm going to go back 7 months to when the weather was a little cooler and just after we visited you, and to thank Legion Hills, who donate the holiday tree for downtown every year. And that is Karen and Jack Mannix of Walker Farm. They purchased a Legion tree. Godfrey and Joe Parent of Turner Renaud, they pick up the tree for us, they place it in the ground. They're instrumental in making this all happen. Rashid's, who we get all of our wreaths from and our other greens, and although we pay him, he goes out of his way to make sure that everything that we need, or if something obviously is taken for someone who might need it more than the downtown, he is always quick to replace it without charging us a fee for that replacement. I'd also like to thank Brian down at Brown & Roberts and his staff, who have been extremely helpful. They've donated product to us, not only in the holiday lighting, but in the flower program that we have and the painting program. John Turner, who has been extremely helpful to us in doing trimming and works with us all over town. And I would really be remiss if I didn't thank James, who has helped us immensely with hanging lights, putting up the tree down in Plaza Park, and he's also been a big help this year with the flower program and keeping Plenty Park extremely clean. I thank him very much. The flower program, which has grown immensely over the past 3 years, I'd like to thank Dunkley's Machine Shop, who actually designed the brackets for us to hang on the bridge on the Whetstone Pathway, and actually on the big control panels that we've put flowers on this year. And Frizzy Carpentry, Robin Frizzy, who did the big flower boxes on Plaza Park. And if anyone hasn't seen them, you should take a ride down Main Street and really look at Plaza Park. It really looks fantastic. Actually, all downtown looks really fantastic. Robin Frizzy actually played basketball for me when he was a 6th grader, and so here he is. As we move along in age, these young boys are growing up, and I thank him for what he did. Barbara Harris and Woody, they painted the railing out in front of the library, which they did several years ago when I recruited them to do that again, and I thank them for that. Again, Rashid's is unbelievable. He's local. We purchase all of our flowers from him, and anytime we have any problems, he replaces our flowers, and he's really an amazing guy. And if you have to go out and purchase flowers or purchase a holiday tree, I'm going to give the guy a plug because he is really something special. I'd like to thank Holstein. Actually, the reason I'm thanking them is that when you have 64 barrels and all the flowers that we have on the street, hauling water from just Plenty Park is a real difficult task. And so I had a conversation with them, and they are allowing us to draw water up there, which makes it much easier to water the flowers on the southern end of Main Street. And that has been very helpful to our only paid staff member, Mary, our water girl, who is probably the most popular person on our staff. And I would be remiss if I did not thank Missy Galanis, / my wife, who is probably...
Oh, no, you would be more than remiss.
Who is really, has been one of the driving forces to get this flower program started, instrumental in the cleanup and painting downtown, and every night is going, what are we going to do tonight? What are we going to do tonight? So I want to thank her very much, and I'll turn it back over to our president. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dick. Such a tremendous community effort. So I'd like to thank you as well for your leadership around that. Moving on, the Economic Development Committee during sort of this board's transitional time has been a little bit dormant, but is getting resuscitated with the leadership from Jim Verzino and others. The Organization Committee similarly was a little bit inactive, however, really led the charge in the talent search for the downtown coordinator, creating that job description, sticking to that timeline, and making the hire along with the executive committee. The promotions committee has been quite active. When Jen began her job, she started monthly newsletters with the merchants. We also attend the monthly merchant meetings. Promotions Committee is really quite focused on serving the membership and assisting with the Economic Development Committee. So the new website has actually been quite a project and is very successful so far, up and running. It's still in beta form right now, but as it says in the notes, the former website had 0 businesses listed on it, and as of today, there are 90 downtown businesses. That, in addition to Jen's work in social media, is really the foundations for a comprehensive digital marketing strategy to increase the vitality of the downtown businesses. It will allow us to really track the success of these efforts as well. So that's very exciting. And I believe that is everything. That's the update on the work plan. Anything to add? I don't think so.
Anybody on the board have any questions or comments? Or anybody else who's with you want to say anything? Hi, Jen, welcome.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that the downtown does look fantastic, and thanks, Dick, and whoever else worked on it. The bridges look great, the Christmas lights looked fantastic this year, so it's good to see.
I had a few questions. You mentioned tracking success, and one of the things that we just, I guess the first thing would be a request, if possible, to get these to us before the meeting, so we have time to kind of thoughtfully look at them. This was here when I got here, so it's hard. I ran through and wrote a bunch of stuff, and I'm probably going to ask you a bunch of questions that are in here someplace.
That's fine.
But the first one is I don't see any measures for, you mentioned tracking success, and I don't see anything articulated in terms of measures for how you're going to indicate that you're making success. I understand that your new staff, new committees, revitalizing, new energy, and things will progress. But I would suggest that you add some concrete measures to show that there's actual progress.
And I'm happy to share sort of what we have in mind as part of the strategic marketing plan, the digital marketing plan. Once the website is, it's always going to be evolving, but once it's in a place of real activity, coordinating that with the social media and some advertising on social media, Google Analytics allows us to actually track how many visitors come to the page. Already one of our social media posts had a 25,000 reach. which is tremendous. But now with the website, we can actually start to monitor who comes to the website, how they behave on the website, where they go, and then if they do go to one of the members' businesses page, and they then go to that member's website, we can actually watch all of that. Certainly, that's phase one. Phase two, after maybe another year, would be, can we actually correlate some of that data with increased sales downtown? You know,
Yeah.
so those are the kinds of things that we're thinking, and I'm happy to articulate that further in the promotions
Great. And
committee
I'm
and
glad
economic
that-
development committee work. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's exactly what I was hoping to hear. And I think your strategy is a good one, to use social media in particular and to track the progress. I'd encourage you to keep a lot of energy into that. And I also made a note about the business recruitment and promotional page. And for some reason, I didn't connect an email I saw from Jim on the Brattleboro Techies site with it was from the Brattleboro Downtown organization. So obviously you're connecting with the Brattleboro area techies who are promoting a lot of these same things, and so I'm sure that you're going to be collaborating with them as well. The thing that sticks out for me, well, the thing I look for, and everything having to do with this job, is economic development and promotion. And you talked about a capacity, or I'm sorry, where was it? Oh, it's over here. I promise it is. A list of inventory of open business, available businesses, and that didn't get, we weren't able to get to it, obviously. And that priorities have shifted as part of the plan. I'm interested in what are the priorities that are more of a priority than getting that inventory and then getting that information out.
Yeah, I'm going to let...
kind of marketing that the way we market everything else.
Yeah, and that was a bit before my tenure, so I'm going to allow Dick to...
Great, thanks.
Allow you. I'll let you do that.
That's a huge undertaking to inventory all the vacant space downtown. And although I can see some reward to having that on a web page, there's certainly enough. There's realtors, there's BDCC, all the real players about vacant space, rentals, certainly storefronts, maybe not apartments or offices above Main Street level. But when we only have a part-time coordinator, we're not in the real estate business. We believe in economic development, but one of the things for us as I see economic development is allowing people to garner information to say, do you realize that the town has a small business loan program? The town has a tax stabilization program, which is beneficial to economic development for potential companies wanting to move into the area. So although I don't disagree that would be nice to have, I'm not sure the energy that it would take for us to garner all of that and get it on our webpage is the best return when we only have a part-time coordinator at this present time.
And I certainly can't speak with any knowledge to that. I will suggest, though, that you, with what little time or energy you might have, talk to Russell Rice downstairs, because he could save you an awful lot of time. He probably knows every single one of them. He'd probably give you a database and a link. All you have to do is stick it on this. But that's not the way you promote. That's not the way you.
Yeah, certainly an easy solution.
You develop greater capacity for downtown property owners to market their space, but that would be it.
Jim?
Just to piggyback onto that, as you said, the committee was relatively dormant in the previous fiscal year, and we're starting our new fiscal year right now, and that was a goal of the previous fiscal year, and we sort of went back, looked at our goals, made proposals to the membership, basically, and it was determined based on those meetings that there were actually a couple of realtors that were interested in sort of picking up that and there's something else we can create a link for. So the new goals for the fiscal year coming have been established, which are in combination with the promotions committee to get 10 articles, either 5 or 10 articles. I'll have to go look at the exact numbers. This is for the coming year, because what we're looking at here is really last year's stuff. 5 or 10 articles in major newspapers out of New York and Boston, or other major media out of those areas, as well as working on supporting the entrepreneurial community in economic development, and how that unfolds is now what the committee is really doing, is taking those 2 primary goals, and that's what we're budgeted for, is basically those 2 items. Those are the 2 major items we're tracking now. We've taken community input, and there are additional goals that we're actually documenting right now. This is the first real meeting of we had our first sort of community member meeting of the year last month. Next month, we're going to sort of document all those goals and look at what the next ones coming up are. But those are the 2 items going forward in the Economic Development Committee that we're sort of looking at for this year.
Great. Again, another thing that may be that it's not a goal anymore, or at the bottom of the economic development section, you talk about not applying for any grants, or you're exploring collaborative opportunities. Can you give me can you flesh that out a little bit? What kind of grants are available, or who might you collaborate with, and anything, what's moving on in that area?
Well, in the committee, really, there's already a couple of things that have come up that people are interested in, and really, I will say I, as the head of the committee and what I bring to the board, I really allow those to bubble up from the community. So if someone's interested in pursuing a project, we will then assist in coming up with those grants and doing whatever we can to help facilitate that, including members of the board. So it could be a member of the board, it could be a member of the community that comes to us and says, here's what we want to do, here's the grants that are, we might say, let's find out what grants are available, or if they know what grants are available, we will play whatever role that person wants us to in assisting with that. So, for instance, there's a community member that's also on the Economic Development Committee that is trying to start an accelerator space, and they're going to be doing that as a nonprofit. We've discussed having the Downtown Alliance, just he and I now. This has never been brought to the board, but this is just an example of how this is working. He's asked me about, could the board be a pass-through if that were to happen, and we said yes, I'd be happy to bring that to the board should it get to that point. But what I've discovered, I think I'm one of the longer-serving members of the board now, of a couple of years only, is until there's a community member, whether it's a board member or not, that's willing to pick up a project and run with it, we can spin our wheels a lot, basically chasing grants that potentially there's nobody to then take the money and actually do anything with it. And then we look even worse. So what I look for as head of the Economic Development Committee is a community member that's committed. If the community member's committed, then I'm going to bring the board along, and I've got another project which I'm going to keep. It's not my project, it's somebody else's project. That until something happens, I'm going to keep quiet, but it's something else that, I do plan on bringing to the board to look for such grants. So I view it as a bottom-up kind of a thing. If the community, if anybody, board member or not, and the community looks like they're willing to do some work, I'm going to do work to help them get grants.
Kind of a from ignorance question. Are there already multiple clearinghouses or sites for people to go and look for different grant opportunities, or would that be something that it would be useful for you to provide a link to? Here's a list of potential grant. I know we've got the town has a whole bunch of grants, grant opportunities, and loan opportunities as well. But there are, I don't know where they are. I don't look for them, so I don't know if these things already exist. But I ask organizations, gee, why don't you do a jobs list? Well, there are a million job lists. Who wants to do another one? So maybe there are a million grant clearinghouses, but if not,
right, it's a great idea.
The only other question I have is it's a request, actually, if you would put us on your email list for, actually, just put me in if other people want to. I'm not going to volunteer other people to get more email, but I'd like to get the monthly newsletter and minutes from your meetings if I could. And any other useful information. had a link to the website. Wasn't there either, because I don't pass it in my daily.
It's in there, I emailed it to you. The work plan came last week, you guys all had that.
Send it to the town email?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's spam central.
Oh. Well, check your spam folder. And your secretary made you copies as well, that email.
Thanks.
So, are there any other questions or comments from anybody on the board?
I'm just hoping to say, because
This is the time that works.
I really, really, really want this to work. You know, it's been chaotic over the past. It's been, and Dick, I'm sorry I keep throwing you under the bus on this, but to see you sitting on that board is just, you know, it's fantastic. But, you know, what we've gone through in the past, you know, I really want this to work because it's been contentious over the years, and it's been, you know, spinning the wheels and just, so I'm just, Michelle, is, you know, it's great, and Jen, and I'm just praying that that we do see some creative and something out of this, you know, because it has been a long time. And so that's just.
Well, thank you for your blessing. And
It's left-handed.
and your confidence
No,
in us.
I'm just, I can see it, so.
Yes. And I have the benefit of being somewhat blissfully ignorant to the history, though I'm getting many history lessons all the time.
Yeah.
Don't believe everything you hear.
One of the things that I'm sure the board is interested in is when the financials for last year are completed. I know we'd like to see them. The work plan pretty much describes a continuum of activities that have unfolded over this last year and move into this coming year. It sounds really like the beautification, the design project, and the promotions are really the areas where work's been going on, and you're hoping to reinvigorate organization and economic development related parts of the downtown organization's work plan, and we'll be looking forward to getting the work plan and the proposed budget for next fiscal year, but obviously we're only 6 or 7 days into this fiscal year, and we'd like to see how the money was spent last year, and then to see how it's projected that the money be spent coming forward. I do remember, I think 3-4 years ago, Mr. DeGray, that there was some discussion of matrix for measuring success, but nothing really happened with that. I do think it was from the designated downtown organization that originated and that was presented to the board. So, like Dave says, it'll be nice to see matrices going forward.
Well, I don't feel thrown under the bus.
Okay.
I guess.
That was a wrong phrase.
Right. But being the most critical member of the organization through the years, because I felt that the organization wasn't doing enough for its members downtown. Not only did I speak of it, when I got off the board, I chose to take action and get on the board. And much to the consternation sometimes of my fellow board members, I have been extremely critical, but I have been extremely supportive. The board that we have, other than Jim, is all less than a year old. This organization started, all the old guard has, you know, they did their time, they left. And so I see a group of people, which when I was sitting there, I didn't see the energy that these people have. And I think that's a positive thing for the DID. I think that's a positive thing for the town. I've seen more activity downtown in the past year and a half and than I ever did when I sat there for 7 years. So there's new energy. There certainly are stumbling blocks that we are going through. Not everybody is aware of all the pieces and the way they come together, and that's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. What is really not good is that you can't make the same mistakes over and over again. And so the board is learning. I'm extremely confident in Michelle as a leader. Matt was instrumental in picking up the pieces when you were all aware that, 12 months ago, this was an organization that was totally dysfunctional and probably should have lost their assignment as the organization for the town. You have given them a second life, and I believe that they have put that lifeline to good use. We're partners. At the end of the day, we're partners. And we need to work with each other. And some of the people I didn't thank actually are Public Works, the Park and Recs Department, the Fire Department, all extremely helpful in the downtown program. You make a call and, whether it's Steve or Carol or the chief of police or fire department, they can't help you enough. So the staff for the town, Rod Francis has been instrumental since he has joined the board in terms of helping guide this new board. It's really a newborn board, and trying to show them, this is the way that the program runs, and these are things that we should be doing. So that's been extremely beneficial, and that came from you. I certainly tried for 8 years and wasn't able to do that, and David and Patrick finally had some staff assigned to the downtown program, which has been extremely beneficial. So yes, we're going to fall and scrape our knee, but I think the organization is in the best shape it's been in right now today than it has been in the last 4 or 5 years. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't believe it.
Well, participation in the designated downtown program is an important thing for the town because it's the way the state organizes its support for towns with designated centers, and we certainly want to make sure that we've got a functioning designated downtown organization. So I want to thank you for coming and talking with us a little bit, and we'll look forward to getting reports. The ordinance says that there should be at least 2 times when the designated downtown organization comes to the select board, and I think every year, without exception, we've talked about hoping that we would have more interaction, and every year it's never happened. So we're glad to see you at least one time before the work plan gets presented through, and as there's additional work going on, and if there's other priorities that are coming up, we'd certainly like to hear from you without having to invite you, come and ask. We'd certainly like to hear from you. So that's the general report about the downtown organization. Is there anybody who's got any comments or questions about any of that? All right, so then the other thing that we had put on the agenda relating to the downtown organization, we've heard back from those representatives that you mentioned who are with the town, that there had been an overture or some communications between the designated downtown organization and the Brooks House developers about potential partnership relating to some development in the Harmony lot. And because the designated downtown organization is really a quasi-public organization that's operated with public funds, we wanted to make sure that whatever discussions were had and whatever was being contemplated even preliminarily was put out in public as soon as possible, because I know it's a matter of substantial public interest. So what we would then ask you just to tell us about is, have there in fact been any sort of discussions with the Brooks House developers about collaboration between the Downtown Brattleboro Association and those developers with respect to work in the Harmony lot? And if so, what was that proposal and where does it stand?
Sure. I'd like to just draw your attention to one of the newsletters that you have in front of you. Let me just see which one it is. It's the one titled Changing with the Seasons. So again, this is our monthly newsletter to the membership. And if you go to the third page, it updates the membership on some of the pitches that we had heard. So it says just this month we heard from several people about their projects and ideas. Some highlights include Christopher Parker, Vermont Rail Action Network, spoke about their work, the local train station, its role in the community, and the potential for working together to make it a more welcoming space. So that was an example of someone who came to one of our board meetings and pitched an idea. Second, Masabi Group came to talk to us about their hopes for developing a marketplace on space reclaimed from the demolition of the old Frankie's building to provide economic, social, and community benefits to the downtown. As Jim mentioned, he had spoken with someone about creating an accelerator space downtown. And then finally, there's something about the soapbox derby and Daniel Korngluth. So this, and Dick has another one to add to that. But just in relation to the Masabi project specifically, to answer your question, this is pretty much all that's happened. We've gotten a pitch, we've talked about it at a board meeting or two, and that's really all the information we have. That's kind of where it stands. You know, we informed our membership that the pitch was made, and that's really it. I'm sorry, I don't have more information than that. And all of these, actually, we haven't taken action on any of these ideas. Again, this has all happened in the past 3 months, so very, very preliminary, all of these ideas. So they're all still in discussion as to which ones really fit our work plan and our mission and what benefits the membership the most. And just to add, Masabi is a member of the Downtown Alliance. So it was made sense that a member came to the board to make a presentation. And Dick had one more to add, I think.
To go along with the arts project, actually, it was kind of interesting. I had a conversation with Hugh Keeneland on the street about 3 weeks ago, just before he came to your board meeting and when you were trying to straighten out the arts grant. And we talked about, we have a plan to place lights in the whetstone, which we informed the board about last November. And part of that lights in the whetstone down by the co-op was part of the VDAT report that was given to the downtown and the town at the cost of about $400,000. I might have spent the money differently, but hey, no one asked me. So in speaking with Hugh, he actually made a phone call right there on Main Street to a artist, Jean Marie Ayers, and the next day she was actually wanted to meet me downtown, and she wanted to talk about the art project, which is part of that lighting program. And I explained to her that we didn't have any money for this, and this was part of the grant money for the arts, and that she would have to be in conversation at least with Hugh to get the particulars about it. And she has called with numerous questions that I have passed on to Rod to get answers for. And we actually I think it's an interesting project, and actually it will be a topic of our board meeting on Monday that has the potential to be a nice partnership. But she is doing all the grunt work, and she actually used our name in her grant application. So we think that that's something that the downtown organization should be involved in. And it was nice to have Hugh, who has a nice Rolodex, that you can make a call and you get a world-class artist who actually did a mural for the Olympics over in London. So anytime you can get that kind of talent with you, you try to utilize it. So that's really what we have been up to. And as Michelle said, they are just conversations, and the board has certainly taken no position on any of the things that she has mentioned.
Any questions from anybody on the board? I guess what I'll note is that some of these topics on the potential projects list may be more controversial and more the subject of consensus, and some of them may be more the subject of disagreement. And I've had communications, I've got some communications that I was asked to read out loud that I'm not going to read out loud, expressing real substantial concern about what's going to happen in that area of the Harmony lot, and raising concerns about public access to that lot. And the best that I'll say right now is that to the extent that there's consideration of involvement of the downtown organization in big projects like this, including something with respect to the Harmony lot, in which there's significant public interest, we certainly hope that the public will be given a chance to participate and to weigh in and to speak about their views about those matters, because I think that those are matters, some of them, the Harmony lot among them, of very substantial public concern. And we just want to make sure, particularly to the extent that this quasi-governmental organization is participating, that it's a fully open process, because like I said last time, it really is the way government functions best and information is best shared. So we certainly encourage you to, act on those issues as openly as possible.
Duly noted.
Pal?
I'd kind of like to speak to
You
the
should say your name, even though
Pal
we know who you
Borowski,
are.
owner of Sam's, proud owner of Sam's. We have the Barber Building in Sam's, and the town functions. I want to first say thank you for coming back to Brattleboro, Peter. I have a relationship with your father that lasted for a long period of time. But anyway, the Harmony lot in the community was the most productive revenue lot that we've had. The parking meters, the parking lots were built by town money and parking meters. And when you have a lot that produces that much money, it means that the people of Brattleboro are using it. You're looking for traffic patterns that fit. When you close off a place like that tunnel, what you do is you cut off a pattern from people coming down Main Street, trying to get into that tunnel, and get into a parking area that they're familiar with. People coming down High Street have the same responsibility. When you close the lot, now what happens is, a person that wants to find a place in that parking lot has to go down Main Street, up Elliott Street, in and out of that lot. If they don't find one, they got to retrace their steps, go into the transportation center, or go up Main Street into the Harris Place lot, or up into the High Grove lot. And what you've done is you've created a problem before the experience. When you go to a grocery store, you have traffic pattern that's easy, you have and sometimes a little busy, but you get in a parking lot, you find plenty of parking. You walk into the store, you go ahead and you shop. You meet people, you talk to them, you take a very casual approach. But when you go to the counter, you try to pick the counter that has the shortest line. You want to get out of that store. So what you're doing is your problem is not before the experience, your problem is after the experience. Now, when a person comes to downtown Brattleboro, they want to find it easy to find a parking place. When they have a problem, they're going to go elsewhere. And that's what you're doing. People on Main Street, I went to a meeting at the Alliance, and some people were saying they're having a very difficult time. The answer is you need a customer pattern that brings people into the community. And what you're doing by closing that lot, closing that tunnel, is you're turning people away from downtown Brattleboro. And in my estimation, if they're not going to open that lot, what you should do is put a fence across your property so that their parking is void of yours and they can't use it. Because what you're doing is you're making an inconvenience to the downtown population base of merchants. Merchants having a very difficult time. And you've got a lot of restaurants, but you don't have a lot of retailers. And you need more retailers. You've got some empty spaces, and I can't understand in my mind why they would want to stop people from coming downtown, but they got 4 empty or 3 or 4 empty stores that they need to fill. They have stores there that are going to have to support a very strong rental base. And if they want longevity, they're going to have parkers. Next thing is, I think it's imperative that the community try to build a relationship with the consumer. And I think this is the wrong way to do it. I don't think it's, a park up there is wonderful. You make a small park with a lot of benches. You get all those people at the transportation center up there, and I think that's a pleasure for me. Because my people go to work, they park down in the lower Elliott Street, or Flat Street area, and they have to walk by these people, and every morning they're approached by some of these people that want money. So I would really love to see them go someplace else. So if you have something, if you have a park up there, put plenty of benches.
Thanks, Pal, for coming and for your comments. Anybody else want to speak to this? Dora? Kate?
Kate Anderson, Western Avenue. So I would like to encourage all of us to think as broadly as possible on the tunnel idea of closing or not closing, and consider that it's not necessarily an either or. It may be an and, both and. There are hundreds of examples of communities, cities, towns that do have central pedestrian zones and are thriving communities. I think that it is not necessarily a clear-cut answer to this, and I wonder how much and how recent the studies have been on the different parking lots, what money they are bringing in, what money Highgrove is bringing in, and if, as far as I can see, Highgrove occupancy is not high, and I'm wondering if there would be a different fee structure that could be implemented that would make the Highgrove lot so attractive that people would want to put their cars there instead of Harmony lot, and encourage and sort of nurture the idea of a pedestrian, an active pedestrian zone. If Highgrove is at 30, 35, 40%, and the fee structure was lowered to a point where people would go up there, it's a half a block away. It's not even a half a block away. Would the yield possibly be higher? When did we last do these studies? And so my point is, I don't think it's a black and white question or answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Dora?
Dora Bubalis, Brattleboro. I actually have something on this and then something on the more generalized organizational structure. I think the pattern has been of less inclusiveness rather than more inclusiveness over the years with the downtown organization. So anytime the downtown organization can open up dialogue and bring as many diverse people into the conversation as soon as possible, that would be the best thing. It would also allow you to not have as much controversy at the end. We continue to bang our heads against the wall in this community about doing things behind closed doors and then coming back around the other side and saying, I just don't understand it. I don't understand why people are so upset. So the more inclusiveness that we can have on this, the better. Which sort of brings me back around to some of the things that I heard in the original report. And that is that it's really nice to hear some of the projects that are coming directly from the Downtown Alliance, but there are many things that are happening downtown, particularly around the area of beautification, from the arts community and from individual organizations and specific individuals. And it'd be nice if the Downtown Alliance embraced that, acknowledged it, thanked those folks, and made it a part of their plan, as opposed to sort of saying that's that and this is us. You've got the mural program, you've got all kinds of arts things happening, you've got different organizations and individuals taking care of little pieces of property and beautifying different sections of the parking lots in towns, in the downtown. Just to sort of think about just that one example of how, and it's nothing against the folks that are sitting here. You guys are limited amount of time doing the best you can, but this has been the pattern. And if we're talking about starting anew, let's not continue the pattern. Let's stop the pattern and change the pattern so that it's more inclusive.
Thank you, Dora. Matt?
Matt Livingston, board member for the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance, former president. I just want to speak to some of the kind of concerns of this quasi-governmental organization that we've been described as. For those of you who aren't familiar, the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance is funded by on a tax base that's levied on the business and the property, that's just the property owners in the downtown Brattleboro Downtown Improvement District. And by our bylaws and by the ordinance that we are constructed under, we answer to those people first, the membership of the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance. So when it comes to being open, there's a lot of openness that we want to have for the public, but we really answer first to the people who fund us, and those are the members of the organization, who are all the property owners in the Downtown Improvement District. And as far as collaboration, we want to be open. We want to be absolutely open. We want people to come to our meetings. We want people to become members. And so any member of the community has the ability to join the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance. In joining, they get a voice at that table. They get a chance to participate in our meetings. They get a chance to be a part of the organization. They get a chance to vote at our membership meeting, which is held every September. And I encourage every interested party in the town of Brattleboro and beyond to do that. We have the capacity to take you on, and we're interested in having you as a member. So to get that voice heard well, come to our meetings. Come and join us, be a part of the conversation. And if you want us to be a part of those other organizations that are going on, bring that to our attention, give us a chance to participate, because we certainly don't have the resources to go out there and find them and to drag everybody into the meeting, but we would love it if you showed up at our door. So, and David, I just want to throw out one more thing. I think this is the first time ever that there's been, the Downtown Brattleboro Alliance has appeared twice in 1 year in front of the select board. So while we are maybe not appearing as often as people would like, we would certainly like to appear more, and we will. But we have effectively doubled our annual average. So I just want to throw that out there. So thank you.
And we're glad to see you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Dora?
So now I have to comment on what was just said, because there are many ways to structure the downtown organization, and this town and the downtown organization has chosen to structure it around mostly the property owners, but that's just the funding mechanism, and it doesn't have to be structured so that it only answers to the property owners. That's how this town set it up. I happen to disagree with that. I never agreed with it. I voted against it most of the time. So, and there are many downtown organizations in which it is more open, in which because it's really supposed to be about the whole statute is about the retailers and the restaurants, the downstairs, the first floor businesses. That's what it's about. That's what it's intended to be about, and those should be the main focus. And the property owners, if those businesses are doing well, the property owners are happy. So I just have to put that out there, because that this doesn't have to be that way.
Any further comments? Mr. Borowski?
BABB was started with a list of a lot of people. We had people from Putney Road, we had lawyers, we had doctors, we had businesses, we had property owners. Steve Baker and I collected $385,000 over a 3-year period to start BABB. It's always been a very public organization. There's no reason why anybody can't participate. The problem is trying to get people to work with an organization and be dedicated to it. Trying to find people who are going to work to come to meetings is a very tough program. BABB has always been open. This organization is a good organization. It was not started to be a sponsor of the community. It was started as an own program. The community decided to pick this organization up and use it as a conduit for funds from other organizations, the state or otherwise. We collected $1 million for the transportation center. We collected $80,000 for the steps to go up to from Bradley Lot up to Elliott Street. So for all intents and purposes, this organization was a community-based program. And we've always had it that way. There's a lot of people, CNS contributed, Sosamo contributed. They're not Main Street. They contributed serious money. And so did the retreat. So a lot of people were dedicated to this program. The hospital participated. So there wasn't just the Main Street merchants or the Main Street property owners that were participating in this whole program. It was a dedication by the community to start an organization that would work for the betterment of the town. When we started this thing, we had 29 vacant stores. This Historical Society went in and they filled every store with some sort of scene so it would make the town look like it had some vibrancy. And basically, you know, we've gone away from, we had the arts, we had everybody involved in this organization. We even had the Thompson Trust that was a part of the program. Every time they had their hospital meeting in December, we had an organizational meeting at the Marlboro Center with everybody. And the Marlboro Center was a part of this thing. So a lot of people had got a great deal invested in this program and wanted to see it move. So if it doesn't move, it's upon the people that are standing on Main Street that don't want to participate.
Thank you. I guess what I'll note is that I want to thank everybody for coming and talking about the history organization, the current status of its programs, and the current status of its work. Brattleboro's downtown is way important to us, and we want to make sure that there is an active and healthy collaboration between the town as a governmental agency and governmental entity and the designated downtown organization and all other community-based organizations that are interested in participating and given to the town as a whole. And we'll look forward to hearing back with status as we move into the fall. And we encourage anybody who wants to participate and work to reach out to the designated downtown organization, Downtown Brattleboro Alliance, and to the extent that there's plans and things that are being considered, we're interested to hear about them so we can make sure that everybody has a chance to weigh in and express their views so that decisions are made in the best interests of the town as a whole. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks everybody for coming. The next item on the agenda is traffic safety engagement with locomotion. Mr. Elwood.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're recommending your approval and requesting that you authorize me to sign the Memorandum of Understanding with Locomotion for an engagement that will be paid for through a state grant, so there's no funds required from the town. And through this engagement, the Locomotion organization would assist the town in improving our traffic calming plan. We've got some better criteria we'd like to create within that and some procedures for prioritizing improvements that can be made for traffic safety in the community. So there were some additional items initially considered to be included within this Memorandum of Understanding. Through the discussions that we've had with Locomotion, we focused on this as what we think is the best opportunity for success in terms of the skills that they have, the experience they have, and the value that they can add to the what we already have ongoing through town staff and the Traffic Safety Committee here in town. So we would request your approval of that.
Anybody on the board have any comments or questions?
Now, are we going to get, was Donna that mentioned the reflector fees? Are we getting any of those through this, or?
Not through this particular effort. There is a separate.
James has got a couple.
He definitely knows.
There is a separate effort continuing through the Safe Streets organization here in town to coordinate additional distribution because of the success of the prior one, actually.
Well, if you get them, because we gave them out at the chamber and they went like hotcakes. Because we're a central location, people could come and get them, so. Great.
Those flashing lights too were the other part of the program.
Yeah, we'll take them if you got them.
And I should mention also on our collective behalf that the Traffic Safety Committee did look at this matter, this question before you regarding the Memorandum of Understanding, and does recommend your approval.
Anybody else on the board? So I have a couple of questions. I had some more detailed involvement because I used to be on Traffic Safety Committee. Now having been ousted as part of a push. First off, I've been using that word push since that Supreme Court decision 2 weeks ago, which we're all very happy about. So, first, Rod, there was some methodological, and I'm looking at you, because there was some methodological concerns about the local motion analysis of traffic data and their initial focus on areas where there might be a need for traffic safety related work. And when I was on the Traffic Safety Committee, one of the things we considered was the reality that we could probably, as a group at Traffic Safety, and then at Select Board, very quickly focus in on those areas that are traffic safety hotspots, so that we can focus our efforts in on those. So can you speak to how those issues are being addressed and will be addressed going forward, if at all, in the work with local motion?
I think you're
Are you the right person to ask?
I'm happy to answer the question.
Thank you.
Because you asked me. And I'm happy to have anybody else interrupt me if I go off course. So my recollection of that is that there was an earlier piece of work that was done by Local Motion, and that examined available traffic accident data involving cyclists and pedestrians, and proposed what they termed a series of hotspots. The sample size was so small that it raised questions about the statistical validity of any kind of correlation that you might want to draw between the location of the accident and some set of physical features about the accident site that were a contributing factor to the accident. So we're talking about a number of accidents reported under 5, and the one possible alternative conclusion that you could reach was the most logical place to expect conflicts between cyclists, pedestrians, and vehicles is on our town's busiest roads. And in fact, that was, the pattern, as it were. So we didn't want to, we wanted to have the direction of causation more clearly understood. So I think that in the end, the methodological questions that we raised were resolved in a manner that I might paraphrase as, we agreed to differ on the significance of the data. That being said, the work pointed to a range of activities that the town could participate in and a range of strategies that the town could adopt that would still address the potential conflict between cyclists, pedestrians, and vehicle users. And I believe that the work that they're proposing now is to actually look in more detail at best practices pursued in other parts of the country and other parts of the state, and apply those lessons to the local Brattleboro environment.
Good.
And I think anyone can correct me if...
There's no correction required. That was actually exquisitely well stated.
Yeah.
And it it more explicitly addresses what I hinted at when I said we thought about doing some other things through this engagement and have instead focused on this piece of work. That's why, and Rod described perfectly why we have a level of confidence that this will be a good piece of work, even though we've had the kind of up and down in the past.
Thanks. So the only other thing that I would comment on is that through the process, it always seemed to make sense to find some way to identify hotspots that could use our attention. Top of Union Hill was one.
Right.
And setting aside that email we got today from somebody who wants a four-way stoplight, which would turn it into a failed intersection so that the Agency of Transportation wouldn't have approved the funding. That's a good example of identifying places that need work.
Right.
And I hope that we'll continue with this process and otherwise gathering public input and getting our collective understanding of the way traffic flows in town funneled in the most effective way possible so that we can prioritize working with traffic safety where we should be dedicating our resources to make the town a safer place to walk and bicycle and drive.
Yes, and it's exactly that prioritizing process that we intend to improve through this engagement. So it's not the identification of locations that need attention, it's how to better assess where we can get the biggest bang for the buck in making changes.
Great. Great. Any further comments from anybody on the board, anybody in attendance? Dor?
Just a question. I don't have the memorandum of understanding, so I'm not sure. It sounds like it's more about identifying sites and doing more sort of structural issues. But have we engaged locomotion in the idea of doing education? One of the things that came up loud and clear when this was being discussed is about changing the culture of the town. It's certainly been done in other communities. I go down to Northampton quite often these days, and you step off the curb and they're pretty much stopping for you to cross the street. And that should be what happens here. Now, granted, you have a lot of people who are from out of state who don't necessarily know that culture, but you put up a sign that says yield to pedestrians and you have the locals stopping, then everybody else does too. So because those folks stop in Northampton, so I know they do it. So I just was wondering how that is being addressed.
It's not specifically being addressed in this engagement because this engagement is about improving the traffic calming plan. So Local Motion has done some work with the town and also with the Volunteer Safe Streets Committee to promote a healthier bike ped culture here, and there's lots of opportunities for us locally and perhaps with Local Motion in the future to do more of that. But this engagement isn't about that. This engagement is about improving our guiding document for the policy decisions that are going to be made about where to make changes, bricks and mortar changes or regulatory changes to promote safety in the community. I'd like to make an observation. I did this for the Traffic Safety Committee, and I think it would be appropriate to do so here as well in this context of this discussion. Just because some place is better at something than someplace else doesn't mean that the place that is doing it better can't improve. I get that, and so we're striving still to find ways to improve pedestrian safety and a bike ped culture here in town. But I got to tell you, I'm so impressed actually by the extent to which vehicles do stop for pedestrians. It astounds me. I do a lot of walking in town, and the fact that it's not just that cars will stop for you as you step into a crosswalk, but actually over and over and over again, I have cars stopping to invite me into the crosswalk when I'm standing on the curb, but I'm obviously waiting for a safe opportunity to go into the crosswalk. It's happened already in just these last few months, dozens of times, and I wave a thank you and I walk through the crosswalk. So I've been really favorably impressed by the degree to which that respect for pedestrians has taken hold because of the work that's gone on around these issues here in the community over the last 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, Dora, go ahead.
So I agree with you, it does happen. The reason I bring this up is not just because I would like to see more education happening and it would be safer, but it also, if you create that culture, maybe you don't have to spend the dollars to restructure and change intersections and other places because people are driving more safely. So, I think it works both ways.
Can I just make a pitch while we're talking about this? And I know this is not what we're talking about, but since Dora brought up driver, sort of safety, or drivers looking out for pedestrians, pedestrians have to look out for drivers. I work downtown. I cannot tell you how many people jaywalk. There are days I want to be deputized so I can go out. Our town would make so much money, and they do it when there's a sidewalk 10 feet away and they jaywalk, and it's amazing to me. So it goes both ways. That's just my biggest pet peeve ever.
Well, we had a series of pedestrian fatalities, and we undertook a multi-pronged approach, which involved looking at risk areas and how we could improve our infrastructure, and also trying to improve our education efforts. And this is an example of additional work to improve our infrastructure, but we certainly continue to believe it's a priority to improve education and the culture as well. And to whatever extent that's possible, we hope that's going to continue happening.
We just put signs up. The sidewalk is 10 feet to your right.
Or deputize Kate. Are we ready for motion?
We are ready for motion,
All right,
please.
I'd love to make it. I move to approve the Memorandum of Understanding and Scope of Work with Local Motion as presented.
Any further discussion? We have a motion to approve the Memorandum of Understanding with local motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That carries 5-0. The next matter on the agenda is naming the private drive, Magnolia Drive, up at the development at Black Mountain Estates. Is there any discussion before our motion to name the new street on the picture as Magnolia Drive? Since Tim Johnson promised that we would learn where it is, I'm gonna hold up the map.
Oh, can someone zoom in?
There it is.
There it is.
There you go. I hope that clarifies. We're ready for motion.
Hold it longer.
They were zooming in.
They're zooming in?
Yeah, they were zooming in.
Well, while they're zooming in, I'm going to approve the name of Magnolia
Here it
Drive,
is.
private drive,
Right here.
off of Buttonwood Drive in the Black Mountain Estate Development.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of naming the drive off of Buttonwood Drive, Magnolia Drive, please say aye. Aye. And opposed or abstaining, that carries 5-0. Next matter on the agenda is to consider awarding of bids for financing for the purchase of the grader, the dump truck, and the police cruiser. Peter or John?
I'll take it.
John.
So in the capital plan, as you said, David, we were authorized to borrow $632,000 to buy a grader, dump truck, and 2 police cruisers. The process of buying the grader and the dump trucks has already begun. So we felt it was timely to go out and get bids and make sure we had the cash available when these purchases were made. So we went out, we asked for 3 bids, one from Merchants, one from People's United, and TD Bank. And in the past, Merchants has always been the bank with the lowest rates for us, and we do a lot of business with Merchants. So this time we were surprised to see that Merchants was actually the highest rate, and TD Bank came in with a rate of 1.51%, fixed rate for 4 years. And the only difference between the bids was that most times the banks prepare their own loan documents. In the case of TD, their bid required us to go out and and have those documents prepared by a lawyer that was satisfactory to them. So we use Paul Giuliani, and he has prepared those documents, and they'll be available for you on the 21st to sign. And so we're recommending tonight that you approve the award of the bid to TD Bank for a $632,000 loan, 4-year term at a fixed rate of 1.51%.
Even the attorney's fees to have Paul prepare the materials save us money.
Yeah, you can, on
between
the back,
rates.
on the back of that sheet is the analysis, and you can see in the analysis all of the interest and principal payments are there, and the only place we have legal fees is the case of TD Bank, yet their total cost is still the lowest.
Excellent. Thank you. John?
Yeah. I've never seen this before. I mean, is
A rate that low?
no. I've never seen us do this before. So, am I missing something?
Which?
Going out for. And Kate and I were just talking about it. I don't remember us going out for loans like this, or
Yes.
We have?
Yes. Oh, consistently.
We have,
no, I know consistently, but I've never seen paperwork brought before us on this.
You mean for purchasing
Yeah.
a truck or a grader?
Right, I thought it always went through, it was approved at town meeting, and
Right.
I just.
We must have been spacing it on our end.
Yeah, I must have been spacing it out, so
Both of us. No, we don't remember, like, we know bidding and everything. I just don't
Exactly.
ever remember
Right.
seeing us get this
Right,
from which
I-
bank
I-
in the low, in the things.
Do you like seeing this documentation?
Oh,
I
yeah,
do.
we were just-
Excellent. Well,
I do.
we haven't seen it before. Let's see it going forward.
Now, can I ask a question?
Kudos to staff. Yeah,
This
please,
end
go
of
ahead.
these guys. Is the reason we use Paul Giuliani is because he's an expert at this kind of thing?
yes.
Okay.
Any further comments or questions or concerns? We're ready for motion.
I didn't know we had a town manager, so.
I've seen him before.
All right, I move to award the bid to TD Bank for 4-year, $632,000 capital equipment note at a fixed annual rate of 1.51% for the purchase of a grader, dump truck, and 2 police cruisers.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed or abstaining? 5-0, that carries. Next matter on the agenda, we were scheduled to consider appointing a screening committee for the National Endowment for the Arts Our Town Grant.
Thanks, John.
And it's my understanding that to date, we've only had one person put their name in, although we had also considered the possibility of relying on the Town Arts Committee to do the screening work. But at this time, we've had some additional consideration we've had some additional communications about other people putting in their names. And we may have a much more significant ability to choose from among potential candidates for the screening committee if we delay this decision to the 21st of July, which is the drop dead date anyway. So, barring some objection from the board, we're going to put off the decision on the screening committee to 7/21, but I do see Dora's hand, so Dora, please come comment.
Just a general comment. I know I commented about this when the discussion about the grant came up. I think one of the reasons why you're seeing fewer applications is because there's so many people that have conflicts, because anybody that's involved in anything in this town has some connection to somebody who's probably putting in a proposal for the RFP. I just would like to advocate for a good showing of people from outside the community on this screening process. I think there are so many wounds that have lasted decades not just within the arts community itself, between artists, between organizations, between the town, between organizations. And if we want to try to avoid that as a community, the more people that are totally neutral in their ability to assess and make a decision, the better it is for all of us and the less headache you guys are going to have to, go through. So I just would like to advocate for that as far as, what decision you come down to on who's going to be on this committee.
I totally agree, and that's the nature of the efforts that are underway at this time. So we're hoping that in 2 weeks, we're going to have a broad group or a broader group of people with expertise in the area who are available to serve. Donna?
I just want to say thank you so much for that suggestion. I think it's a really keen observation and a really solid suggestion for us to be with. And I think that, several of us are in agreement with that.
But right now, all we would have would be locals, and they'd all be good people, but we're looking for as broad as participation as possible. Peter?
Yeah, just one quick clarification. By the way, I agree also for what that's worth, but I want to just clarify because of the time frame that we have, there is a very explicit intent to do exactly as you've described in create a good, broad, external, objective composition of the selection committee that will assist in September. So there's some other suggestions we received too during that period of time when we were working on how to put the pieces of this back together. And so the selection committee has been described more fully in terms of how we're going to try to populate it with people who don't have any of that history, one way or the other, with artists in the community. For the screening committee, we have a shorter time frame and less ability to ensure that we end up with that kind of external objectivity. We're hopeful that that might happen with this extension of time for applicants to come in. We'll see where we sit 2 weeks from now in terms of how fully we can achieve that for this first phase of the screening.
Excellent. So hearing no objection, we'll just postpone this item to next week, 2 weeks from now.
2 weeks.
Excellent. So now the last item on tonight's July 7th Select Board meeting agenda is committee appointments. And I'm gonna move the appointments of all the uncontested seats, and then we'll have our vote on the one contested seat. So I move that we appoint Janet Bailey and Erica Breen to 2 terms ending June 2018 on the Agricultural Advisory Board. Any further nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining, that carries 5-0. I move that we appoint Adam Salviani to the Arts Committee for term ending June 2016. Any further nominations? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining, that carries 5-0. I move that we appoint George Harvey to a term ending June 2018 on the Energy Committee. Any further nominations? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any abstaining or opposed? That carries 5-0. I move that we appoint Rachel Seymour to a term ending June 2019 on the Planning Commission. Any further nominations? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That carries 5-0. I move that we appoint Dylan McKinnon to a term ending June 2018 on the Tree Advisory Committee. Any further nominations? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That carries 5-0. So now, the method for voting for the Brattleboro Housing Partnership slot is that we're going to take nominations and then we're each going to vote for them. We can vote as many times as we want, but not twice for one person.
It's a great.
So, do we have any nominations for the Brattleboro Housing Partnership? Donna?
Yes, I nominate Martha Ratcliffe.
Do we have any other nominations for the Brattleboro Housing Partnership?
Oh, I do.
Please.
I nominate Patricia Smith.
All right.
All those in favor of Martha Radcliffe, please raise your hand. That's 3. All those in favor of Patricia Smith, please raise your hand. That's 4. Patricia Smith is elected with 4 votes, and to Martha Radcliffe's 3 votes. Is there any further business to come in front of the meeting? All right then, before the public meeting. So I move to re-enter executive session to discuss real estate options and contracts where premature general public knowledge and disclosure would clearly place the town, the select board, and people involved at a substantial disadvantage. And I invite the town manager into the executive session. I'll note that we will be adjourning following the executive session, should the motion to go into executive session carry, without any further action being taken at the meeting tonight, and no action will be taken in the executive session. So I want to thank right now our ASL interpreters, our BCTV camera operators, and the people behind the cameras in the control booth, and everybody who's been watching and everybody who attended and contributed to tonight's meeting and business. Good night. So now the motion is to enter executive session as previously moved. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? That carries 5-0. Good night.
I just want to say that the teal egg.
Yeah, you guys coordinated.
Yes. I like real friends too on your class. Yeah.
Thank you. No, it's a different pair.
Oh, they're nice. I like them.
Thank you so much.